The 70 books I read in 2024, each described in 1 or 2 sentences, and also my final star rating, because I feel like when I was giving them the star rating, as soon as I read them, that star rating is so different from the star rating I will give it when so much time has passed. Let's get into the video. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. I have read 70 books in 2024, which is half of what I read in 2023, and I just want to take a moment to mention that even though numbers do not matter at all, because I have read fewer books this year, I have had a much richer reading experience. Not to say that my reading experience was horrible last year, because I found some gems. I am obsessed with some of the books that I read last year, but I also remember really going through book after book after book, not really taking a moment to breathe. Who knows how many books I will read in 2025, but I did want to share this experience with you guys because it is what it is. I read fewer books this year, and the way I have just soaked in the books, how I remember them, how I remember little details within them, because I did a little bit of a deep reading. It was a beautiful reading year. I also got hit with multiple slumps this year. It made me realize what my tastes are, how I like to read, not just the genre of the books, but also how I like to read. My reading has changed and evolved so much in this year, and I am so grateful to have read all of these books and meet all of these characters and take in all of these stories. I personally want to read around 80 books next year, but that is part of my reading goal, which I will talk about in another video. For today, let's begin with the 70 books that I have read this year. Oh, and also, this is not in order of every month. Like, I have tried to pile them up month-wise, but I did bi-monthly wrap-ups this year, because of which I only have bi-monthly data with myself. Let's not even talk about the reading journal. Again, you will see it in the other video that I make, what exactly happened with the reading journal. So they are mostly in sequence and month-wise, but I do not remember the month, so I'm sorry about that. Starting with Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, which honestly I do not remember if I read in December or January. I remember reading Malibu Rising in December. Oh yeah, I think I read it in December, but I counted it as my January book because I did not include it in my last year's wrap-up. It is a childhood friends to lovers second chance romance, and it was one of the most beautiful ones I have read. I love self-aware characters, and that's what I got in these. There was also dual POV, which I love so much, and I gave this book 4 stars. I have not been able to talk about this book as much as I wanted to because I read it somewhere between the years. But You Again by Kate Gorbeck, one of the funniest, most dramatic, slow burn romance. The characters are annoying but really fun to read about book. If you like movies like Harry Met Sally or Humtum, you will enjoy this book a lot. I gave it 4 stars. The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. This is set during the 9/11 period. 2 people meet before that incident, and then that one incident changes their life completely. This book made me question a lot of things about love and even the philosophy of love. The writing was really beautiful, but there was almost a cheating trope going on, which I do not like at all. So I gave it 3 stars. Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Alice Feeney did it once again. There is only one book that I don't like by her, but till now I have read around 3 to 4 books by her, and I'm obsessed with each and every one of them, this being one of them. This is a story of Amber, who is in a coma, but she's able to listen to everybody. She worries that her husband does not love her anymore, and sometimes she lies. Gave this book 4.5 stars. Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, which is the second part in the Finlay Donovan series. I was obsessed with the first book. I gave it 5 stars last year, but this one is a little bit of a letdown. It got a little bit repetitive. Plot also was slightly boring here and there, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Second Made by Ali Hazelwood, her first YA romance, which yes, here and there does not read like a YA romance. The innocence is missing a little bit, but this was the first book that made me cry in 2024. I remember this being the first book that made me feel like, okay, now I have started my reading for 2024, because of how it made me feel cozy and cute, and I read it during winters. It was such a good time. It's a story of these rivals in the world of chess. Give this book 4.5 stars. My first 5-star book, 6-star book of the year, and so early in January. I am absolutely obsessed with this book. The Book of Everlasting Things by Anchal Malhotra, which was gifted to me by one of you guys, and I am so beyond grateful because I do not think I would have picked it up myself. Sameer and Firdaus, these 2 beautiful souls that meet each other at a very young age, but then the setting is of the partition, and we see how the partition affects their life. So beautiful, so vulnerable, so tender, and so tragic. I am obsessed. 5-star, 6-star book. The book that made me realize that 1, standalone fantasies are not bad, and 2, I can judge the book by its cover sometimes. A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This is what it looks like. I'm absolutely absolutely obsessed, and I had heard about this author and her work, but I was worried to give it a shot because I felt like it's not my vibe. It's a story of a woman who wanted to be in the literary field but she couldn't, so she became an architect, and now she has gone to restore the house of her favorite author, hoping to make something of herself in the literary world. Her self-esteem is so low because of everybody around her and how they treat her. All of this does not sound very jarringly interesting to me, especially in a fantasy setting, but I read the book and I'm obsessed with this, and I'm obsessed with this character. She's one of my favorite people ever. 5 stars. In the end, I think of January, the last book I read was The Couple at Number 9 by Claire Douglas. To be very honest, I do not think about this book a lot. However, the plot twist was worth it. 3.5 stars. Those were all of the books in December end and January, and then came February. Again, I'm not sure. First up, we have Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. Yet another surprising book. Mia is definitely one of my most favorite characters ever because the way she overthinks and analyzes things of her past and rips them apart to see what is going on is so like me. It's crazy. It's the story of Mia, whose father goes missing. Now she's looking back at everything that happened and thinking, was there any way to keep him from going missing? I give it 4.75 stars, but now I'm thinking that I'll probably bump it up to 5. What you're looking for is In the Library by Michiko Aoyama, translated by Alison Watts. I started reading one chapter every morning from this book, and I had the coziest time in February winter with it. It's the story of all of these people who feel a little lost in their life, so they wander and they end up in this library and they get a book recommendation from there, and we see how that book changes their life in little ways, but it also gives them so much hope. It's just a very, very cozy reading, and if you want to start with Japanese literature, this is the best book ever. I gave it 4 stars. After this, I did a Valentine's Day video, and that is sort of where my downfall began. The first book was The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. I think it's called a mafia romance. I'm not sure about it, and I don't even want to speak much about it because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes, but I gave it 1.5 stars. Next up is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is the story of a woman who has recently lost a lot, and now she's trying to understand where she stands in life. She feels lost, so she's trying to find herself, and while that aspect of the book was absolutely beautiful and there were so many parts of it that I have highlighted because it was so relatable, it also does have a love triangle, and I am not a love triangle person, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Love on the Second Read by Mika De Leon. I really hope I'm taking the name right. It's a story of 2 geeks who work in the publishing industry, and it's just a very cute, cozy story. 3.5 stars. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This was the book that sort of revived me from the reading slump that I was very much in, even though it is a very slow book and it's a very thick book. It's a story of Addie LaRue who makes a deal with the devil, and she is going to live forever, but everybody she meets is going to forget her. Something very massive happens suddenly in her life, and we see the story of that. A beautiful, tender story. Henry is a character I still think about. Sometimes when I think similar thoughts like him on a regular basis, I think of how Henry also thought them. 4.5 stars. I read a romance book to get out of the reading slump, and so I read The Catch by Emilia, which is a part of the Influencer series. This is the 3rd book, and it's a story of a fashion influencer. Reminded me of It Happened One Summer mixed with The Burnout by Sophie Kinsella. Cute, fun, summery time. 4 stars. Next up, I read Daisy Jones and the Six during the same time when I was getting out of the reading slump, and this book absolutely changed my life. Not in a way that it has inspired me to do anything. It's just a story that is literally a piece of me now. There is no day, I mean, okay fine, there are, if I'm being honest, there are a lot of days where I don't think about the book, but there are also a lot of days when I do think about the book, when I do think about the characters, when I do think about Daisy Jones and Billy, and absolutely obsessed with this book. And for some reason I did not give it 5 stars during that time because the ending was a little weird for me, but now that I think back at it, it's an absolute 5-6 star read for me. I very much remember reading Funny Story after that, but Funny Story is a little deeper into this pile, so we're just gonna roll with it. First up, we have A Psalm for the Wild Build by Becky Chambers, which is a very short and sweet story, and it is a conversation between a monk and a robot about what the meaning of life is, what the purpose of life is. Gave it 5 stars. Next up, we have the Inheritance Games series, which I finally read this year thanks to Anjali, who gifted this book to me. It's a story of Avery, who inherits a large amount of money from an old man, but the twist is that the old man did not know Avery at all, so why is she the one getting it? The family of the old man who was supposed to get the inheritance is also thinking the same thing, and they go on a journey to figure out what exactly happened, and they play a lot of games to get to the answer because the the old man really liked games. 4.5 stars, 5 stars, 3.5 stars, but overall this is definitely a 5-star series for me. Then I read my first book by Claire Pully. I am obsessed with Claire Pully, and I just realized that I found her this year. Like, I read her first book and then all of her books this year itself. The first book I read was The People on Platform 5 by Claire Pully, which is a story of Iona and many other characters who cross each other's path on the platform 5, and everybody is going through something in their own life, and you see how it intersects with each other, and they build a community that ends up helping each other. It's one of the coziest, most beautiful stories ever. And yet again, I think I gave it 4.5 stars. Objectively, I think I would still give it 4.5 stars, but I am obsessed with all of the books by Claire Pully, so I'm giving it 5 stars. Another one which was a shocker that I read it this year, because I swear to God I've been recommending it to people, like I've read it like last year, and oh yeah, it's been a long time since I read it, but I'm obsessed with this book. I read it this year. 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, which is the story of Lemon who inherits a house, a flat. The twist is that it travels back in time, 7 years back and forth in time, and that is how the romance begins. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's magical realism, but it does not go deep into the time travel part of it, so if you don't like that, it's okay. But if you like that, oh, I will love you in every universe, or I will love you in every timeline trope, then this is your thing. It's my almost first 5-star romance read. Like, I barely give 5-star to romance novels, but this one is a definite 5-star. Just like look at all of those annotations. I was absolutely obsessed with this book. I still am. Next up, I wanted to finish the series, but I only started it this year. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I read Yellowface by her last year, and I was absolutely obsessed with that. It is epic. It is gruesome. There are tons of trigger warnings that you should take care of. But if you want to read historical fiction and you want to read something more, you have read the basic fantasy books and you want something more, then this is your book. It's a story of Rin who's trying to escape marriage, and she gets an admission into a school, but that is like 10% of it. There's just so much more that happens in the book. 5-star, absolute 5-star. Next, I read one of the most anticipated thrillers of the year for me, which is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. It's a story of Rachel Price, who disappeared 16 or 18 years ago, but now she reappears while a documentary is being filmed on her disappearance. Belle, her daughter, is now trying to understand what exactly happened, because Belle was 2 years old when her mom went missing and now she's 18. So what happened, Rachel? Loved how Belle was so different from the other characters I have read by Holly Jackson. She was a badass and I was here for it. Gave it 4.5 stars. Next up, the most anticipated book of the year. We have Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I got the advanced reviewing copy of, and I was so happy about it, and I loved this book so much. It's a story of two people. Their exes get together, and now these two people live together till they can find their own apartments. I just did not like the miscommunication in the third act because it was completely unnecessary, if you ask me. So I gave it 4 stars. Then I also reread The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. You guys know it is a 5-star and I've talked about it a lot, so I'm just gonna move on from this. And then I think this was the last book I read that month, and yet again a 6-star, and I cannot believe that this was in my shelf for 2 years. We have How It Feels to Float by Helena Fox, which is the story of Biz, who recently lost her father, but she can still talk to his father. Like, not really, but you know, she can talk to her father, not his father, her father. And then there is this very slow but intense spiral down for her. You follow the journey of that, and I think that you should definitely read the trigger warnings when you're reading the book. It is a YA book, but definitely read the trigger warnings. It also does take some inspiration from The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Very serious things discussed, but also so beautifully. Somehow it was a very inspiring story for me. 6 stars. Next up, we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which is the story of a man who wakes up in a different world without his family, but he has all of the achievements that he wanted and he was missing when he was with his family. Now though, he cannot wait to go back to his family, and we see the journey of him going back. There's also a scientific aspect to it because it is a sci-fi thriller, and I enjoyed it very much, but I just think that if I read it long back, like around 2018, I would enjoy it even more. If you're a sci-fi beginner, then this is a great book. 3.5 to 4 stars. Next up, I read a very short but enduring book. We have The Gentleman from Peru by Andre Asiman. It is the story of the gentleman from Peru who is always at a table all alone, and this friend group one day invites him over and he starts telling them stories, and those stories are out of the world. I'm just gonna tell you that there is a little bit of hidden romance in here, and it is to die for because I'm obsessed with it, even if it is such a short book. I gave it 5 stars. Next up, we have The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden, which is the second book in the Housemaid series, and I enjoyed it a lot, but not as much as the first book. Gave it 3.5 stars. The Fury by Alex Michaelides, which was again a very anticipated thriller of 2024, and I loved the writing style. I am obsessed. Everything had a purpose. I just think that the ending took it a little too far, which was not necessary at all. So I think I gave it 4 stars, but I still think about this book a lot, so 4.5 stars. My Husband by Mont Ventura, translated by Emma Ramadan, is a story of this woman who talks to us about what her husband does on a regular basis, and whenever he makes a mistake, what she does to punish him without him knowing. My final rating for this book is 4 stars. In the end, I think in this entire pile, we have Anna O. I just think that it sounded so much like The Silent Patient, and I was so excited for it, but I had to really rush through it. I counted it as a DNF, but I did really rush through it. I went towards the ending to see what the ending was because I was so done with the book. The info dumping was just crazy. I gave it a 1 star. In the next month, I read Every Time I Go on Vacation Someone Dies by Catherine Mack, because I felt like I'm again falling into a reading slump because of Anna O, and I was just randomly picking books up, and this is the one that I picked up. It's such an underrated book, and I can't wait to recommend it so many times in 2025. The main character breaks the fourth wall and she directly talks to you. There are footnotes in this book that are hilarious where she's talking to you. She's walking you through it, like, oh, do you get what happened now? Do you get what happened now? I gave it 4.5 stars. Next up, I read Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which was my most anticipated book of the year. Like, I was obsessed with Powerless and I couldn't wait to read this book, and then I finally did, and I'm sad to report that I was slightly disappointed. As much as I still obsessed over the characters and I loved the romance so much, the book barely had any plot, and that really got to me. The ending did make up for it, so I can't wait to read the third book. Next, I read another book by Claire Pooley. We have How to Age Disgracefully by Claire Pooley. This one actually became a 5-6 star read for me. It is a story of Daphne, who has a spectacular life, but she's also very lonely in life, so she goes out there to make friends. I love Daphne so much. This is what I mean to say when I say that I read so many insanely awesome books this year. I am either in a slump or I'm reading back-to-back bangers. We have Lovely War by Julie Berry, which I read on the recommendation of Destiny Sidwell because she gave this 5 stars, and I wanted to see if it is actually 5 stars or not, and now I am obsessed with it. It is the story of these two couples. The story is narrated by the Greek god Aphrodite, who is the goddess of love. 5-6 star book. Next up, I have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, which is a story of this woman who everybody believes that she committed a crime, but she was never convicted, and now somebody is making a podcast on whatever happened with her 5 years ago, and now she's back in town at the same time, and she's also trying to figure out what exactly happened 5 years ago. Yet again, the ending was not that much of a gut punch, so I did not give it 5 stars, but it was a funny, nice read, and I enjoyed it so much as a thriller. 4.5 stars. Another Ali Hazelwood book I read this year, her new release, and it is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, which is the story of Drew and Eli, who do not want to have a relationship, but they cross each other's path and they are not able to let each other go. A lot of people also classify this as an erotica. I did not enjoy those parts of it much, but I did enjoy the characters a lot. They were quite fleshed out, and I just love it when two people think that they don't deserve love, they don't want love, but they also can't stay away from it. 4 stars. Another book I am obsessed with from this year, we have The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. It's a story of this book of doors where if you have it, any door is every door. Obsessed with this book. It has fantasy, it has thriller, it also has a little bit of literary fiction here and there, and I am just absolutely obsessed. That's all I'm gonna say. 5-6 star read. Then I had a downer. We have One Moment by Becky Chambers, and it's not exactly a downer because the book was bad. I am pretty sure that a lot of people will find a lot of meaning in it. It has concepts in it which I don't find that I connect with, where you can talk with the people who have died. You are connected to those people somehow, you are in their mind somehow, and my brain just doesn't compute it, so I did not enjoy this book a lot. 3 stars. Then I found my new favorite author of the year with this next book. We have The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, which is a story of Elsa, who wants to be a brave woman, and we basically see her entire life. I was devastated in the first 60 pages. I will link the reading blog, especially of this one. I am just in love with it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, but it is a 5-star book. Then I wanted to read something light, so I read a romance book, What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren, which is an underrated gem, by the way. I was so close to giving it 5 stars. Story of these two people who again don't feel like they are ready to be in a relationship, but they can't let each other go. It talks about such like heavy topics, but in a very warm-hearted, light way. It's a 4.5-star book for me. In the end, in that stack was a disappointment, because apparently I read 7 Year Slip this year itself. I thought that I read 7 Year Slip last year and I was excited for this release this year, but no, I read it this year only, and then I was also excited for this release this year. The book is a novel love story by Ashley Poston, which is the story of this woman who stumbles into her favorite fictional world. I thought that it would be so exciting to read because she will meet her favorite fictional boyfriend and things like that. Nothing like that happened. It was a cozy, nice read, especially during the winters. I just did not get what I wanted, and so I was personally disappointed. That does not mean that the book was not good. Also, I am not that big of a crazy fan of the small town romance trope, and so that also got a little bit boring for me here and there, and the romance was not developed. Give it 3 stars. I don't know why I feel like I went on a hiatus after that, and then out of nowhere I read Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, which is the first book in the Boys of Torment series. It's a story of Johnny and Shannon. Johnny is obsessed with his career, his games, and Shannon has a very dark place in her house. She does not feel safe over there because of everything that happens, and they cross each other's path. It has dual POV. It feels like I'm watching their life on vlog, if that vlog was very, very tragic. It's vulnerable and it's tender. There is a lot of profanity going on. I think that is the word, and I did not enjoy that, but apart from that, obsessed with the story, obsessed with these characters. 4.5 stars. Another YA book that I was so excited about and I really enjoyed it. We have Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter, which is the second book after Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, where Liz and Wes, oh by the way, we get Wes's POV in this. Oh my god. Liz and Wes are now in college, but they are broken up. 4.5 stars. Next up, I read the Hunger Games trilogy. Obsessed with it. I wanted to see if I would enjoy it as a 25-year-old or not, and I definitely did. It's a story of Katniss and this world where Hunger Games takes place, and the only way to survive the games is that you have to be the one who's alive and everybody else has to die, and Katniss is pushed into those games for some reason. It goes so much deeper than that. I loved the first book so much, 5 stars. Loved the second book so much, 6 stars. The third book was a little bit of a disappointment, but around 4 stars. Overall, a 6-star series. When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This one is growing on me now that some time has passed, because I do sometimes think about some quotations from this book, and this is the memoir of Dr. Paul, and he is diagnosed with cancer. So you get to see his perspective as a doctor and as a patient, and it's all intertwined together. I just did not like it a lot when I was reading it because I felt very depressed, because I think it got too real and I was not ready for it. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I was so excited about this. A rivals to lovers romance. She thinks that she's typing letters to her brother who is at war and at the front lines, but the letters are actually going to somebody who she works with, and they are rivals. I just did not think that it was fantastical enough because it's a fantasy romance. It felt more like a historical romance. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I found my new obsession. We have The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiragi, translated by Jessie Kirkwood. This is the story of the lantern that once you die, you wake up to, and then you select pictures that you want to put into this lantern, and then your life flashes in front of your eyes through this magical lantern. It's deeply emotional, and I am absolutely obsessed with this book. Also, the way it does not leave any loopholes, mind-blowing. 5 6-star read. I fell in love with Hope by Lang Cali. It was on my TBR since so long, and I finally read it, so I'm happy about that. And I also did enjoy the book. There are so many quotations that I love in the book, but I did not get what I was expecting, which is my thing, but it is what it is, so I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I read another book by my new favorite author, Kristen Hanna. We have The Nightingale by her, which is her most popular book, and I can see why. It is set in World War II, and the story of 2 sisters who are trying to survive that time in France. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cliver, which was my first horror novel, and I'm so happy that this was my first one, because if it was not this good, then I would have been so disappointed by the genre itself. It was a great introduction for me. The only negative point would be that it is open-ended and there is so much that could happen, but I was okay with it because this book actually sort of deserved it. I think about this book because of that, and I give it 5 stars. Then I read the last book by my new favorite author, The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley, which is the story of this project that an old man starts because he is lonely, and he writes his truth in this Authenticity Project notebook and then leaves it in a strange place for somebody else to carry it. Multiple characters, everybody has something going on in their life. This is a common concept through all of the books. Community, friendship, beautiful pacing. This book, a 5-star read. If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin, which is the second book after If He Had Been With Me. I was so excited for this book too, and I was not disappointed by this one either. A lot of people were, because we got the POV we wanted, but we also did not expect the other 2 POVs, but I absolutely loved it. It made everything that happened in the first book so much more real for me and intense for me, and I enjoyed it so much. 4 stars. Then I found the best thriller of the year by Alice Feeney, I Know Who You Are. It's a 5-star, 6-star read for me, a 5-star thriller for me, and I was not accepting it for a long time because it's quite disgusting, the twist and everything, but it was just insane. I could not have guessed that at all. It's a story of this woman who has had a fight with her husband. She goes back to solve it, except that her husband is not there. He's gone missing. Obsessed with this book. Then I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Extremely disappointed. It's a story of this couple. They're both teachers, and that's all I'm going to tell you. 2.5 stars. Next up, we have Good Material by Dolly Alderton, which is a story of a breakup, and especially from a guy's POV for most part of it. A very mundane but very interesting read, and I think about some of the quotations from this book even now, though I am not sure if Dolly Alderton's writing is for me. 4 stars. I also read an audiobook during all of this time. It's called Just the Nicest Couple, and I have never talked about it because I just completely forgot that I read that book. It's a story of this couple who everybody is like, oh my god, they're such a nice couple, blah blah blah, except some horrible things are going in their life which only the reader knows, because we get multiple POVs. 4 stars. These are a few books that I have now recently read. First up, we have Shatter Me by Tahre Mafi. I am not going to speak much about it because I am making a reading vlog with these books, but I cannot stop thinking about Aaron Warner for some reason. Is it Warner? Tell me why. 3.5 stars. The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, a collection of novellas of different characters from the entire series. I don't even know all of the characters, but it gave me Six of Crows vibes. Like, I will like it as much as I liked Six of Crows. 5 stars. House on the Cerulean Sea, which I read in Mumbai, my entire trip in Mumbai. I took this book over there because the sea is there in Mumbai, and this is a sea book. Obsessed with this book. I actually found so many good books towards the end of the year. 5 star. Then I read another book by Kristen Hanna. It's The Women, and I read it on my Junagadh trip. My whole trip became memorable because of this. 5-6-star read. Story of Frankie, who goes to the Vietnamese war to make her parents proud, and we see her whole story. Then I have read a lot of ebooks recently. First up, we have Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I lost my faith in Frida McFadden's book after The Teacher, but this is supposed to be her best book, and a lot of people say that it's like rock paper scissors, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna check it out. It was actually a very good book. I did not see that ending coming, and it was written very well. It is definitely a 4-star read for me. It's a story of this couple that goes to see a house, but they get stuck because of a snow blizzard. Then I read Black Ties and White Lies. It's a marriage of convenience, or fake dating. Sorry, it's a fake dating trope between the boss and his assistant. It was a fun read, except I just feel like it was more about the physical stuff, and the emotional depth was lacking, and also the guy was just rude instead of being grumpy. 2.5 stars. Next up, I read My December Darling by Lauren Asher, which is her Christmas novella, and I am so obsessed with it. I love Lauren Asher. I started the year, the last book that I read last year, a book by her, and I'm obsessed with it, and now I did it again this year, and I'm obsessed with this one. If you want a Christmas hallmarky movie, it's a little cliche, okay, but if you like a guy who is self-aware and he's very forthcoming and does not believe in miscommunication, you will love this book. 4 stars. Next up, I read Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It's a YA romance, and obsessed. The story of these two kids in high school. They're each other's rivals, so it's a rivals to lovers story. It's not as innocent as I would want it to be. That is the only thing that I don't like about it. There are just scenes that shouldn't be in a YA novel. So is it actually a YA novel? But I think it is. But I am absolutely obsessed with everything else about this book. 4.5 stars. And I think that is all of the books that I have read. I feel like I am missing out on some books, but that is exactly what happened last year too. So if I've missed out on some book, I will talk about it here and there. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. These were all of the books I read in 2024. Can't wait to read all these new books in 2025. A new video is going to come live very soon where I'm going to talk about my 2025 reading goals. But till then, you can actually watch this video. You can see all of the books that I read in 2023. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye.